Hello once again. First of all, I'd like to say it's been my honor, my pleasure this past week to spend this time with you and enjoying Shnayim Mikra. I enjoy Shnayim Mikra very much. I hope you enjoyed and got something out of the words that we said this past week. I know I enjoyed very much learning it with all of you at this time. And now, if you allow me to indulge, perhaps I can convey to you just a thought. It was every parsha and every piece of Torah and every word is special, but Parashat Bo is so fundamental in every part of our life, because we know that the Aseret HaDibros start Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. I am Hashem, your God. This is the basis of Amunah according to all the Rishonim. And why? Why should we have that Amunah? Not because it doesn't say Hashem bara es ha'olam, that Hashem created the world, but rather Asher tzaysicha me'eretz Mitzrayim, Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. So taking us out of Mitzrayim, which was this past week's parsha that we were privileged to learn together, is the core and the basis of our Amunah b'Hashem. And I'd like to give it a little bit of a thought. And if you will allow me, I'll digress for one moment and come back to that, because I think it's all pertinent in this week's parsha. One of the things that we spoke about in this week's parsha was the mitzvah, the first mitzvah, they call it the first mitzvah, called Kiddush HaChodesh, sanctifying the new moon. And what's interesting, the Medrash tells us, which is kind of obvious, we all know that at this point, that there's really two different countings. We have Rosh Hashanah not in Nisan. We have Rosh Hashanah in Tishrei. Yet in this week's parsha, when we spoke about Nisan, we spoke Rishon Hu Lachem. This is the first month. Nisan is the first month, but there's no Rosh Hashanah. Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah. So maybe that's the first month. So which one is it? So the Medrash explains, well, Tishrei was when creation was. So it's the first month in that regard. And Nisan, the Medrash just tells us that's when we became Am Yisrael. Let us just examine that for a minute, because I think it's a very beautiful and important point that we should internalize for our own selves in our growth, in our spiritual growth. And that is that there is an idea of creation. Hashem had to create the world, and the idea of creating the world was that there should be a people that will exist in this world, that will elevate this world and connect it, as the Vilna Gaon says, to the upper worlds, to the spiritual world. That is the idea of this world. That is the mission that we were privileged to get. That is the mission of this world. Not that there should just be a physical world and enjoy the physicality that Hashem gave us, but rather that this world is really only here for a short time, as we know. Yemei Shno Sehem Shivim Shana. Nobody's here for that long a time. But what is the purpose? The purpose is that we should bring Kavod Shamayim into this world. Hakol Baral Kvodo. And we were given that privilege. And when were we given that privilege? By Yetzias Mitzrayim. That is the night that we became Am Yisrael. If somebody were to ask you, when did Kedushas Am Yisrael begin? You know what you would say? You would say that happened the night that Hashem skipped over our house and he killed Makas B'chores, and then ultimately we went out the next morning. That was the moment. That was the time that we received Kedushas Am Yisrael. We became, and Hashem, as we spoke before, Shimurim, he anticipated, he waited for this time to have that beloved nation, and that is us. And that is the purpose of the world. So it may be that creation may be in Tishrei, but the purpose of the world is now. And that's why the Kiddush HaChodesh is in this week's parsha, because it wants to make sure that we know this, that we internalize this, that Kiddush HaChodesh is now by Nisan. This is the main month. This is Rishon Hu Lachem. This is how you have to look at the beginning, because this is the real sense of purpose. Everything else is just a means to get to the Nisan, to get to the Yetzias Mitzrayim, to get to the fact that we are the chosen nation of Hashem. We are his beloved nation. And when we realize this and we internalize this and we repeat this, as the Parsha told us, V'higadat levincha, that we have to say it over and year out, and we re-experience it every Pesach night. We get to re-experience this tremendous love bond between us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of being chosen over again, reaffirming Hashem reaffirming his choice of Am Yisrael to be his nation every single year. As we do that, we are elevated. We are elevated. It's called freedom. Freedom from the physical from restrictions of the world, because we're spiritual. When you're spiritual, you're free from the physical world. We elevate ourselves to that connection, like the Vilna Gaon says. And that's why that the Torah tells us, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, the fundamental and the basis for our emunah is not the realization that there's a creator. Everybody knows there's a creator. Any honest person knows that someone created the world. You can't have the symmetry that we see, that there shouldn't be a creator. Every honest person knows that. But to internalize and know that Hashem is the supervisor and he's the sustainer, he's the orchestrator of everything that happens. And the purpose is to have a relationship with him, to love him, and to be close with him. That's a level of emunah, and that level of emunah is what we need to have, and that's what Hashem gave us, allowed us to absorb on Pesach night, on Yetzias Mitzrayim, in this week's Parsha, which we go over and we commemorate and we reabsorb every single year. Mitzvah Hashem, we should use this Parsha, what we acquired from this Parsha, what we acquire from the Shnayim Mikra, every single week. By doing that, Hashem's Torah, that is how we express our love. That's how we keep the fire going. That's how we keep the connection going. How do we do that? It's nice Seder night. It's very important. But how do we do it? How about all the other 52 weeks of the year? But the Shnayim Mikra, that's set learning. That's set limud. Kutcher Brichu, V'ayraisa, V'Yisrael Chadhu. Hashem, the Torah, and Am Yisrael, the Zohar says, is one. Only through Torah. And what is the most basic way? Take a look in Shulchan Aruch. Shnayim Mikra. I admire everybody that's a part of this program. You are the ones that are keeping the world together. You are the ones that unite us, the Araisa, the Torah, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Am Yisrael. Unite us with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and unite us with each other. May Yehi Ratzon that you should all chazak v'amatz and continue the strength to be able to continue the Shnayim Mikra Yomi as you do every single week. And when we all be together, learning Shnayim Mikra together, Be'eretz Yisrael b'meher v'yameinu.